strategically understanding how to detach myself from the things that I so dearly desire has been an absolute game changer for me. And once you understand the dynamics as per how and why we detach and must detach in order to attract that which we want, you're going to realize that the only means to acquire that which you want for you, for me, and for the rest of the people on this earth sits behind our capabilities to want something as much as we'd like to breathe, but while simultaneously being able to detach from the outcome. Let's be real with each other. You probably heard millions of other individuals just telling you, hey, you must just detach. You must just let go. You must just learn how to leave it all within the hands of the universe. Well, how does that make sense? How is it possible that I'm supposed to want something as much as I'd like to breathe while simultaneously detaching myself from the outcome? It is actually behind that incoherence that we understand that letting go is not as simple as we tell you it is. Letting go demands a strategic protocol to follow and remain consistent on in order to get to the heights that you want to get to. Without further ado, ladies and gents, why is it important to detach ourselves from the outcome? I can be giving you an entire blueprint right now, an entire roadmap as per how to detach, but unless you understand the why, you are simply going to be giving yourself an artificial temporary pump. Up until 3, 4, 5 days down the line, you stop and you're like, wait, why am I even doing this? And that's when you essentially go back to step number 1. So why is detachment important? As some of you may or may not already know, in order to keep ourselves as human beings onto a high vibration, what has been a worldwide truth and that even survived the test of time, it's that always remaining within the spectrum and radiating within the spectrum of high vibrational feelings, such as being in a state of gratitude or in a state of happiness, is what allows our frequency to manifest into something positive. Therefore, what survived the test of time is that being constantly happy and grateful leads to being within a high vibration. Now, in order, of course, to remain within that state 24/7, you must understand, my friend, what are the roots of pain. If we can understand the roots of pain and isolate ourselves, which potentially causes pain, we are immediately and naturally allowing ourselves to remain exposed to its polar opposite, which is being happy and grateful, because we're protecting ourselves from pain. So now, what is the root of pain? One thing: attachment. Whenever you're attached to anything in life, no matter how large that thing may be, you will suffer pain. As human beings, we want to control everything. It's within our DNA. We want to control the outcome. We want to be able to attach ourselves to that which we would like certain circumstances to be. So we realize that the root of pain is to become attached to the outcome. And therefore, once we detach from the outcome, we are ultimately living in a state of constant happiness, gratefulness, and therefore we're operating on a high vibration. That is strictly why detachment allows us to break through in life. When we detach, we automatically remove all sort of possibilities to attach ourselves to an outcome, any outcome, which is the root and cause of pain. And so isolating ourselves outside of that must leave us with a life full of happiness, gratefulness, high vibration, and therefore detachment. Now, of course, the question that you guys have been waiting on, how the fuck do we detach? As I mentioned, to detach yourself is a step-by-step protocol that you must follow. It is actually a 3-step protocol. Step number 1 is called awareness. In order to detach successfully, you must gain awareness as per how this universe operates. If you were to understand how simple it is to manipulate quite literally this universe, you would detach yourself from everything around you. You would never think about a simple worry, about a glance of fear or doubt or what if. It would never come to pass. It would never come to your mind. So let's get into awareness. Ladies and gents, if you guys go on Google right now and you literally go ahead and type in, what is this universe made out of? You will not see energy. You will not see matter. but you will see that the universe is made out of 99.9% atoms. This universe that appears to us being full of matter is actually nothing more but atoms. Those glasses over here, ladies and gents, are made out of atoms. My skin is made out of atoms. This camera is made out of atoms. The money that we chase day in and day out is made out of atoms. Now, I'm sure you may be wondering and you may say, well, Nicholas, if this world is made out of atoms, am I not supposed to be able to see those atoms? Am I not supposed to at least see that this universe is not just made out of atoms? Why do we as human beings, why do we have such a large illusion? There are actually two reasons, ladies and gents. The first reason might not be satisfying you, but the second will. The first reason as for why those atoms cannot be seen to a man's eye is because it is infinitely small. Now I'm sure you may be wondering, okay, well, what if I take my eyes and I really get something close enough? I mean, I shall be able to see it, no? I mean, especially if you're telling me that those atoms, well, you know, they shake, they move, there's energy around those atoms. Am I not supposed to at least see my wall potentially move or shake? Or, I mean, I still have doubts, right? Imagine that we have a car right in front of us, a Lamborghini, and that car is going at 30 kilometers an hour. And I look at you and I tell you, my dear friend, have a look at the wheels of that car. And so what happens as you're looking at the wheels of the car going at 30 kilometers an hour? To be quite frank, nothing special. The wheels are simply turning and turning and turning and turning. And so then I ask the Lamborghini driver to please go and raise the intensity or the speed to now 150 kilometers an hour. And so now as you and I, we observe those wheels, they're starting to go faster and faster and faster and faster and faster and faster. But as I ask the guy driving the Lamborghini to now go to 200 kilometers an hour or 250 kilometers an hour, something will start happening to those wheels. And you might start seeing those wheels going forward, and then slowly but surely they slow down and they start going backward. Have you ever seen that illusion? And I mean, if you haven't, please, I invite you to go on YouTube right now, look on Google and type in, for example, Lamborghini going super fast. Pay attention to the wheels. We've all been a witness of this illusion of a wheel going forward, slowing down and then going backward, and then again it slows down and it goes forward. We've seen that happening. And so similarly to that, I need you to understand that whenever we look at our world around us, this world which is made out of atoms, those atoms are moving at such a high speed that just like the wheels, we get an illusion. The only difference is those atoms are literally moving at the speed of light. Those wheels are only going at 250 kilometers an hour. And so the funny thing is, we get an illusion when those wheels are going at 200 kilometers an hour. Imagine the illusion that we get when those atoms are going at the speed of light. The illusion that we get is this reality that we're surrounded with. Everything is made out of atoms. Everything, in fact, moves around us so fast that we're now having an illusion that everything is static. It's from that realization that we say, wait, those atoms, they move so fast that we can't see the world around us move. Therefore, those atoms must have a particular speed. Right or wrong, they must have a particular speed. The world around us must be radiating at a particular speed. And that is when, ladies and gents, I present to you how a frequency was discovered in the first place. A frequency is the speed at which the atoms around you are radiating. It is a simple metric that allows us to calculate how fast something is moving. And so now what we're realizing is, wait, well, those glasses over here that started as matter, now those glasses are atoms, and those atoms are moving at such a high speed, which is why I believe that those glasses are matter. And since those are moving at such a high speed, we've now been able to understand that they run at a specific state of vibration. They have their own frequency, their own particular speed. So this world around us vibrates, and it vibrates constantly. And now, ladies and gents, the law that essentially puts all of this beautiful knowledge together and that makes you understand that everything that I just brought up, even though I probably cracked your brain with some science over here, it still makes you understand that law that I'm about to break down. There's a way to take all of this knowledge and make it into an actionable blueprint to rise and become the top 0.1%, to rise and become part of the individuals who looked deeper into this knowledge, which is how they got to where they're at in the first place. This law, ladies and gents, is called the law of vibration. Now, some of you guys have probably heard me speak about the law of vibration many times, but to me, to my mentor Bob Proctor, the law of vibration is all it takes to have you go to the next level. Ladies and gents, the law of vibration essentially states that just like the law of gravity, that essentially guarantees you that if you go onto a specific floor, if you go on the 11th floor of a building, for example, you go onto the 11th floor and you jump, with the law of gravity states, you will have a natural attraction, a natural vertical attraction to what? To the floor. You will naturally be attracted and pulled down to the floor. Gravity will allow you to get attracted to the floor. Just like the law of gravity guarantees a vertical attraction, there's a wonderful law, which is the law of vibration, that states that we can guarantee a horizontal attraction. There is a law that says that the thing which we want can come to us horizontally if we do things correctly. And most importantly, just like the law of gravity guarantees this attraction, you being pulled down to the floor, similarly, the law of vibration guarantees a horizontal attraction. How, you may ask? Well, just like the law of vibration states, if you are capable of understanding the frequency of that which you want, and you can hold yourself onto that very same frequency for a long enough period of time, you and that desire have no other choice but to come together and to become one. Guys, this is how I did everything that I did. This is why you see me living the life that I'm currently living. It's by gaining awareness of the law of vibration. And so now going back to our overall idea of detachment, well, how on earth don't you detach when you understand the law of vibration and you understand how this world operates? How don't you detach? You see, attachment usually comes from not really understanding things, not really understanding the roots of things. But when you understand this universe with such delicacy, how do you still attach yourself to the outcome? You just simply become better than that. You become aware. You gain awareness. And therefore, you allow yourself to understand that there are laws that can guarantee an attraction. And so if it is guaranteed, why are you attaching yourself so much? It's guaranteed. It's literally as if God literally signed a contract with you and told you it's gonna happen. Awareness, my friends, is the absolute foundation to starting your journey to detachment in order to acquire that which you want. Now, of course, having awareness about our foundation is one thing. Gaining track record and confidence on that foundation that we're now aware of is step number 2. In order to detach, you must build a personal track record with yourself. It is extremely important for you to stop and build a track record for yourself, which leads me to step number 2. In order to detach from the outcome and manifest the life that you want. Ladies and gents, let me introduce you to the observation realization protocol. The observation realization protocol starts with you starting to take the time and develop as a habit, the habit to observe and notice all of the small changes that are happening into your life. Many people may call this confirmations. Confirmation that this which I am doing and that which I'm working on is actually working. There's confirmation. Look, the blueprint that Nicholas gave me is actually working. I'm utilizing it. I'm working on it. I'm doing everything he said that I should be doing. And look, here's my confirmation. I'm observing the fact that there is confirmation. So we must first understand and develop the habit that it's important to become overly sensitive to our confirmation, and we must, of course, observe them. Your attention needs to start flowing towards confirmations. Observe the world without and look for certain confirmations. That is when the realization protocol comes in, which is simply taking a moment to look at that which you've observed, that confirmation that you've been able to observe, to stop and realize the change. It's important for you to stop and say, wow, look at this. Today, I built the website to my business. Yesterday, I had no website. Today, I have a website for my business. That is your observation. Now, your realization is gonna be, look at this. I've always wanted to become that entrepreneur. I've always wanted to become that man making $50K a month. And look, this is the first milestone. I've built that business. I've built that website. Isn't it funny and isn't it crazy how I'm moving towards this entrepreneurial self faster than I can ever imagine? Take the time to realize and say it out loud. Say it out loud. Talk out loud to yourself. Realize the progress and say it, the smallest things. If you find yourself reading a book, for example, you observe yourself reading a book, take the time and realize the fact that, hey, I'm taking the time to read this book. I'm taking the time to absorb new knowledge that I didn't have yesterday. Hey, isn't it crazy how each and every single day I am now absorbing more and more material that I didn't have the day before? Isn't it crazy how I'm just transforming daily? You see, so you've got to observe the smallest things happening in your life, stop and realize the change. Realize everything that you're doing. What that does, ladies and gents, is it builds a track record and it shifts your self-identity. Your self-identity is the way that you view yourself. It's the way that you entertain yourself, your inner world, within consciousness. There is nothing more important on the face of this earth than your self-identity. The man that you describe yourself to be, the man or the woman. It builds your self-identity by you looking at yourself as a man that is fueled by fire, by momentum, by action, by progress. You're now planting that seed within your subconscious mind that says, oh, when he puts his mind into it, he just fucking skyrockets. Therefore, the next time that you're trying to go from, for example, 10K a month to 30K a month, naturally your subconscious mind gives you a hunch in the form of an assumption. That assumption will say, oh, well, you're trying to go from 10 to 30K a month. Great. Based off of my track record, you've always done well. You're gonna do good this time as well. That raises your frequency. It allows no weight to pull you down, so it allows you to rise. And before you know it, you're making it happen. And therefore, having that pre-existing assumption in your mind naturally allows you to let go. It allows you to detach because you just know how good you are. You're not attached anymore. You just know it's gonna happen. If you see yourself succeeding 100 times, if you actually saw yourself succeeding 120 times, do you genuinely believe that for a slight second you're gonna be worried as for what's gonna happen when you reach that 121st time? You won't be concerned. You'll just say, look, I just succeeded 120 times. That time won't be any different. Aha. You let go. You're detaching yourself. You're allowing yourself to rise. Now, the third and last key component of detachment, I'd like to present to you the law of polarity. The law of polarity is extremely important. It might demand a little bit more of your focus though, but nonetheless, it is a key component that demands your attention. The law of polarity states that whatever fields, industries, nature, you're looking into, for example, the field of temperature, the field of wealth, the field of emotions, no matter what field you're looking into, there must always be two polar opposites. If we look at the field of temperature, for example, there must be two polar opposites, extreme heat and then cold. If we look at the field of wealth, there must be two polar opposites, extreme wealth and extreme poverty. But in whatever fields you're going to be looking at in your life, you will always find that polarity, which is, by the way, what the yin yang says, or at least that's what it tries to showcase, is that there's always two sides of the same coin. Similarly, the law of polarity goes a step further by making you understand that it's not only that we have two sides of the same coin, it's that the two sides of that coin are literally the same. They are just experienced at a different level of vibration. Now let me explain. When you look into the field of temperature, for example, what the law of polarity states is, number one, there must be two polar opposites. In that case, it's heat and cold. But it also showcases that heat and cold are both the same nature. They are both the same molecule. They're both the same nature. The difference though between heat and cold, or heat and cold shall I say, is just the different state of vibration of that molecule of temperature. So if you're feeling cold right now and you deeply feel this emotion of being cold, well, you just have to raise the intensity, raise the vibration of that same molecule that makes you feel cold. And if you raise that molecule, your body is now going to start experimenting what being hot is. You'll be experiencing heat. Heat and cold are no different. They're just felt at a different intensity. Now, similarly, how do we use, of course, the law of polarity when it comes to our goals and becoming multi-millionaires? Well, let's look into the field of wealth, for example. If you're capable of feeling mediocrity within you, that feeling of mediocrity, of course, radiates a certain vibration and frequency outside of you. That feeling of mediocrity certainly radiates a certain frequency outside of you. And so it's that very feeling of mediocrity. And so that same nature that creates that feeling of mediocrity, that same nature can be taken and could shift with an intensity and vibration. Whatever creates mediocrity creates wealth. So if you're feeling mediocrity, you already have the fabric of what can build wealth. You already have the fabric, you already have the nature within you of what can create that frequency of wealth. The same thing that is making you feel mediocre right now, if felt at a different level of intensity, could create wealth. The same thing right now that makes you feel mediocre, that same thing that makes you feel mediocre, that same nature, it's the same thing that can create wealth. You just need to go through something which we call polarization. You must go from one pole to the other. That very same thing, that very same nature that makes you feel mediocre, that nature can be taken and polarized and shifted towards wealth. And once you're there, you now radiate within the perimeter of wealth. So how does that allow us to detach once again? It allows us to detach by understanding that if we feel mediocrity, we are not too far from wealth. We're simply one shift away from wealth. We're simply one level of intensity away from wealth. We don't have to go in our world without. We don't have to go die outside and accumulate wealth with our hands and hard work. Of course, hard work is necessary. Of course, we all know. And to tell you the truth, I work over 16 hours a day. But what I know is, although I do work 16 hours a day, in order to shift in frequency, which is what's genuinely going to allow me to touch whatever I want and turn it into gold, in order to do that, I have to look within. Because that same fabric within me that is telling me, Nicholas, you could be doing more. You could be doing more. You could be pushing more. That same fabric could be manifested. We can have a shift in intensity until that transforms into a wealth consciousness within me. From a poverty consciousness to a wealth consciousness. We don't have to get that wealth consciousness from the world without. You could detach by understanding that it's all within. You detach by understanding that everything that you need to become a success is within. Do you understand? And so us as human beings, knowing that this wealth is within us and not outside of us, gives us that taste of control. It removes the fear of the unknown. And by removing that fear of the unknown, we're automatically polarizing and shifting ourselves towards creation, towards wealth, towards those high vibrational events. And by mastering those three key components, ladies and gents, you are guaranteeing yourself to completely detach from the outcome strategically, while also working very, very hard for what you're doing, while also working very, very hard for your dreams. You're also capable of reaching that perfect sense of flow. We're sure you're working 16 hours a day. Sure, you're doing absolutely everything that you can, but yet you're in a perfect harmony and balance, which I like to call the flow state, which is that state where you're working, you're like tunneled vision, but you're not extremely attached to the outcome. You're just in a state of enjoyment. You're just in a high state of vibration, which goes back to our first point. Whenever you're detached from the outcome, you must be left with just a state of happiness, gratefulness, detachment. And it is that very state, ladies and gentlemen, that creates creation. It sparks that fabric of God. It sparks that fabric, that energy of creation that we can take and implement into whatever we're looking to get into. And that is how I got to where I'm at. That is how I got to sell multiple of my companies. That is how I got the opportunity to go through exits, selling my company for a valuation of multiple 7 figures, making multiple 6 figures a month in monthly profits. That is how I've been able to simply detach and acquire everything that I've been wanting in my life. If you feel like this will help you, which it will inevitably, if you feel like this was explained to you in a way where it all now makes sense, letting go now is not just an enigma, a sentence that we just throw out there and we hope that we can execute correctly. If you felt like this was the actionable blueprint that you actually needed to genuinely detach and let go, then I highly recommend you and I invite you to look into our inner circle. Now, of course, as always, ladies and gents, I shall see you at the top.